Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another gameplay slice, a video with the sole purpose to give you a good understanding of a specific part of a game or the game in general. Today I have for you the Slormancer, specifically both endgame systems currently available. This video isn't sponsored in any way, and if you're interested in the game I will leave a link down below. The Slormancer is a top-down pixel art twin-stick ARPG, very much like, for example, Chronicon, and it feels and plays quite a bit like Chronicon, but it's got definitely its own unique mechanics, which I will be talking about. The video is made out of two parts. The first is some endgame expeditions, which we will be doing, and the second is the Sloan Temple. At the end of the video I'll be doing a pros and cons, because I've been playing the Slormancer for almost 100 hours, so I have some thoughts on this and I want to share those with you. Alright, diving in game, here we are, and this is your cute little town where you typically do all your stuff. You have a campaign, which I already completed on this character, but the campaign is actually well written, it's quite hilarious, and these are the two endgame systems that are on offer as of now, because this isn't still in an early access stage. So you have Battlefield, these are your expeditions, and you also have the Sloan Temple. We will be starting with expeditions because over here you get some of the stuff that you need to open the Sloan Temple in the first place. So I'm gonna do this in the correct order, you could say. You can select all sorts of difficulties whenever you play these expeditions. I'm currently on like the third difficulty. It goes up to 10 or 11. There are significant multipliers in place the more higher up you go. As you progress your character, you will be able to take on the higher levels. For now, I'm just sticking to 3. This is more of a showcase. It doesn't really need to be, super challenging in that sense. You could easily go up to 4 or 5, probably also with my current build. But yeah, it doesn't really matter right now. I'm playing with a controller because I just really enjoy playing with a controller. This game is easily played with a controller as well, especially the combat. Once we get back into town and do maybe a little bit of upgrading, I will be swapping to mouse and keyboard because the controller just isn't really suitable for that. But combat definitely is. And what I have made is this. And this is my character. It's a spin to win character, and it is going to proc all sorts of small little things. So this is going to be pretty funny, I think. There's some loot. You have a loot filter in this game, which is great. One of the things that I am always looking for in my action RPGs, a decent loot filter. I'm not gonna go too much into the build, because I will be creating my own separate build guide for this character, because I think it actually works out quite well. Here you see a small piece of pure Slorm. It's the purple crap, and it's just dropped by elite enemies. So you see it over here, it's like these purple blobs. I picked those up, and this is the currency that I need to use in the Sloan Temple. So what you see is I go over these small portals. For example, here's another portal, and then enemies appear from another realm or something. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, where they come from, but that's kind of the idea. And the point of this is that you just go through the levels, you clear out all the monsters, you do all the portals. There may be things like this, which is a small chest. And once you've done that, the game allows you to go to the next level. So over here we got another portal which we need to clean. Some of the portals are a little larger, like this one. This means that there's multiple waves. See, there's the second wave, and this is the third wave. And there we go. So we cleared the entire level, we cleared the entire floor, and now we can go to the next floor, or we can head home. We're going to do 1 or 2 more, so you just have like a decent idea of what's going on here and how this works. But you may already be able to tell, and this is one of the criticisms currently of the game, is that this is rather repetitive, or it can become rather repetitive. Because I will be in this zone, you could say. This is the prison. This is one of the biomes that currently exists. So you have the prison and you have the graveyard. But this is the prison, and it all kind of looks the same. And it does, right? It all kind of looks the same. There's not a whole lot of variety here. And I personally don't mind, but there are definitely people who would get, you know, a little bit bored with just playing this as an endgame. Now, there is a lot more to it than just the combat, because this game is also very much about the progression of your character and about getting literally like constant small little incremental upgrades, which makes this so addictive. And this is really the grind sort of that you are supposed to be doing, but you are being constantly rewarded, which for me makes it a lot more bearable, honestly. But I can definitely understand if you don't have that, and if you feel like that this is just too repetitive. You can also see that while the layout is, let's say, procedurally generated, which it is, it doesn't really matter too much because it's all still the same biome, it's all still the same prison. And yeah, ultimately it does become a little bit boring and a little bit bland, at least for some people. Now, the reason why I don't really feel that way currently is because of a few reasons, I think. And one of the reasons is that I personally just really like this sort of style of ARPG. This is an ARPG that's extremely convenient to play. There is not a whole lot of things that you have to think about as soon as you get into the levels, into these floors. You can just keep grinding away and you don't really have to think about anything. And this is one of those unique games, in my opinion, that gets you into like this sort of like grinding zone. And it's very comparable, for example, to what I can do in Path of Exile. If I just create a quad tab full of maps, and then as I basically rolled all my maps correctly, and I can just put them in the map device and just keep mapping for a few hours. That is a little bit what this game feels like as well. You're just like in the zone, there's not a whole lot of stuff happening on the screen, but you can just easily farm away, and slowly but surely your character is going to get better. You're going to find more loot, you're going to kill more enemies. There's like this small little mini game currently ongoing. If you look at the bottom right, you see a DPS meter. Now that's not super impressive maybe, but what you also see is a multiplier of Slormite, right? And that means that as long as I keep killing monsters, I will keep getting this multiplier. It is kind of like Rampage in Path of Exile, if you're familiar with that mechanic. So I try to make sure, but now I'm gonna fail, but I try to make sure that I keep my kill streak going so that I get more currency, which I can then spend on more items, more gear, more gems, more other things that I could potentially need. You just saw a few things level up already. One of the things that leveled up is my weapon, and I will talk about the various components that can level up in just a little bit when we get back to town. Another thing that leveled up is one of my skills, my current ascendancy, you could say, or my subclass, that also levels up. There are a lot of different little progression systems that this game offers, and each of them level up with more and more experience, which is yet another reason to sort of just keep grinding, just keep playing. And I personally really enjoy it. Another thing that I personally really enjoy as well is the music. I think the music is just great in this game. As well as just how fluid everything runs. This is a really seamless sort of experience, and it's not something that you see an awful lot of. And in that sense, it's very much like Chronicon, because also Chronicon managed to give you this seamless farming, grinding experience. It even had entire auto loot. Now, this doesn't have auto loot. You do need to loot your items, but apart from that, yeah, it's just the same amount of convenience. I understand why other action RPGs don't do this, because it kind of makes you lazy and it kind of makes it like a brain dead experience from time to time. But sometimes that's nice. And this is not a game, for most people at least, that you're going to play for hundreds and hundreds of hours, right? This is much smaller than that. the scope of this game is not that ambitious in that sense, which I think is also good to realize. However, I already have almost 100 hours into it, and I'm not bored in that sense. Alright, let's head back to town. I think you got a decent idea of the endgame, and this you can do sort of endlessly. There are an endless number of floors. The more floors you clear, the more rewards you get at the end of it. So there is a incentive to keep grinding and keep going. But for now, let's go home, and I will show you several of the leveling up mechanics and several of the progression mechanics that this game offers. One of the more unique mechanics that is in place is your weapons. You have specific or special weapons, and they're called Slorm Reapers. Now, these are they come in 3 versions because you have 3 characters that you can play. You have the Knight, which I'm playing, you have a Ranger or a Hunter, and you have a Mage. I'm playing the Knight currently with a Whirlwind build, as you could have seen, and currently there are about, I don't know, 15 or something, or 20 Slorm Reapers per character in the game. Now, the interesting thing about these Slorm Reapers is they have all different effects. So some of the Slorm Reapers, they do specific damage, some do like, let's say, physical damage, others do elemental damage. Some of the Slorm Reapers, they have really interesting effects, like they spew out a bunch of goldfish, for example, or they debuff enemies with slow, or they make you super fast. They are literally all over the place. And not only do you have these weapons which can individually level up, because if you look at my level, if you look at my weapon, which you need to go over here, you see that it's currently level 81, and I got 55 bonus levels from my gear. So it's currently level 81, and it can level up all the way to level 100, and it will keep increasing in power in that sense, which is very interesting. Now, once this gets to level 100, as you can see, this is not the regular version anymore, because this is the regular version. It's called the most powerful sword. If you level up this to level 80 or higher, you have the option to do a primordial version of the sword, which means it's going to get one more initial and stronger effect. In this case, I'm getting Reaper damage multiplier, and Reaper damage is just, let's say, weapon damage. However, I also get a malediction, which is a debuff or a negative effect, and that is that my elemental damage is reduced to 0. So with this weapon, I do not do any elemental damage, but that is fine because I am a physical build. I am doing whirlwind damage in that sense. But that's not all that these weapons have, because what you can see, for example, over here, is there is a small line between this weapon and the next weapon and the next weapon. If I start equipping this weapon, and I will just keep killing enemies, this weapon is going to be upgraded and leveled, and it will evolve at some point into another weapon, into the secondary version of the weapon. And then I need to kill stuff again, and then it will evolve into the 3rd version of the weapon, which I think is just a very interesting mechanic. And I have done one of these things, for example over here. I started with the Sword of the Larva, which does absolutely no damage, and it gives me negative modifiers. Minus movement speed, minus elemental damage multiplier. Then it turns into the Sword of the Chrysalis, which is even worse. But then if you keep grinding with this, it turns into the Sword of the Sleepy Butterfly, which suddenly reverses all those negative effects that you had on you before, turns them into positive effects. And now this weapon at only level 36 gives me 10.8% movement speed, which is quite a lot of movement speed. This is a little bit how this Slorm Reaper system works, and it is very, very interesting. There are a few more systems. I have my regular gear. Now, regular gear I can show you actually with one of the items. Regular gear also has different levels. A little bit like how you would craft gear in Black Desert Online, for example. So you have your basic gear, and then it goes all the way up to plus 15, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I played BDO, but I think that was the case. This is the same thing. So my gear has also the standard version, and then I can keep upgrading it using the Slormatologist over here. I have my gear. It is currently tier 2. I have 100% potential, which you get by killing monsters. Everything you get is by killing monsters. I can combine it with some Slormite, and I can activate the Slormatizer, And now it is a +3 instead of a +2. And this increases all the affixes that were on this item. And so I have all my gear is getting there, right? It's +8, +6, +6, +8, everything like this. You have epic and legendary gear, so this means that there's a legendary effect in place. Not really gonna go into that, but these are even stronger than your typical gear. But that's yet another progression system. So you equip your weapons, you kill monsters, they get this potential, and then you can reinforce them once again. All the way, I think, up to +15, but I'm not entirely sure. You have your skills. Well, your skills work exactly the same. Also, your skills have levels, and you can keep grinding these levels. And the more levels you grind, the more base damage these skills do. So I have 12 levels in Whirlwind, and I got 18 of those extra levels from my gear, meaning that my total level of Whirlwind is level 30, and this is why it does so much damage. So by continuously playing the game, your skills get stronger as well, which means that ultimately you can do better content, get more experience, and this is like the gameplay loop all in all. You have astral legacies. I'm not entirely sure how to explain these things, but these are permanent buffs that you can also spend points on, and I've already maxed out all of this. So I get some additional raw damage, I get 2 auras as well, which I've both toggled on. You can see them over here. One of my auras, they make sure that I'm getting additional resistances, and the other one slows the enemies, which is great, because that means they're just not gonna hit me as much. And then now there is one more, which is the latest and sort of newest system that was introduced to the game. That's the Sloan Temple. We're gonna dive into that right now. Now the Sloan Temple is a little bit different than the expeditions, or than the battlefield, I should say. The reason is that this is also procedurally generated, but this is more of a progression system in itself. It means that there are a whole bunch of floors, I think maybe 150 or something. And each of those floors, they give you specific enemy multipliers. And the enemies get tougher and tougher and tougher, of course, but they also give you specific rewards, because there is one more reward and progression type in this game that I would like to show you. I have prepared for you floor number 80. I haven't completed this yet, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect, but I still have, a decent idea of what I'm getting into here. So let's do this. And this is a little bit different, as you could see. We have this mage over here. He is like, one of the archmages, one of the masters of this tower. And every time I run into, that thing over there pretty much, I spawn a bunch of enemies. So it acts like the portals in the expeditions. However, this is a little bit different. I can follow the line until the new platform. And now there are a bunch of defensive mechanics in place. So you see these beams over there. These beams are going to be very problematic if I get hit by them. Like, these things hurt like hell. So it's very important for me to not cross these lines, which makes it a little difficult for my build, because I'm, a whirlwind build, so I don't really have much range. I'm still dropping meteors and random swords and whatnot, so it's not the end of the world. And I have a decent range, as you can see. But this is the other endgame, and you just need to follow the blue line. You need to keep killing the enemies. I need to keep avoiding the beams. That's very important. There we go. I keep spinning because I keep proccing all the other secondary effects that this build has. So the meteors, the swords, the white little balls, they do damage as well. The big swords that like circle around me from time to time, also those do quite a bit of damage. So I keep spinning even if there's nobody really around. And there we go. So this is how you normally complete the floor. If you take too long to find the shrine, and this is the shrine, so I have 61 seconds left, which is quite a bit. But if you take too long, you have to fight a boss. So there is some time pressure. Because these are randomly generated, sometimes it is a lot harder than other times, which is good to realize, I think. You can pick it up. This is pure Slorm. We'll get into that and how that works. And because this is floor 80 and every 10 floors I get a new reward, which is why I prepared for you floor 80, I get a specific reward. I would get one at floor 90, I would get one at floor 100, etc, etc. So you open it, you don't actually see it, but if I swap over to my mouse and keyboard again, you could see it. There we go. I'm getting an ultimatum of impeccable technique. Now, I don't know what that is, because it's the first time I'm getting it, but it is part of my ultimatum collection. Now, what these things are, they're sort of gems, I suppose, and all of these things do something specific. So, for example, this gives me an inner fire chance, and it is set to a specific value. This means that, because this is an ultimatum, my inner fire chance is set to this specific value, and nothing else, not passives or anything else like effects, upgrades, passives, equipment, none of these affect the chance of inner fire anymore. It is set at 16.5 and that's it. I can, if I want to, upgrade this at the Mage using the pure Slorm that I just got. Because you saw me looting this white pure Slorm. That is the currency that you need in order to upgrade your ultimatums. So I can talk to this guy. And for example, if I want, I can upgrade this ultimatum. Now, I don't have a whole lot of Slorm because I spent it all on my last session. But that's a little bit how this works. But I can upgrade much more. I can upgrade how much of the purple stuff in the regular levels I can carry, which I have spent quite a few points in. I can upgrade how much of that purple stuff I find. You can upgrade how much the temple's defenses hurt you, or the temple boss hurts you. And there's some transformation going on. I'm not going to get into that right now. But you can, once again, this is an entirely different system. Once again, a small progression system, which you can spend time in. And the more of the Sloan Temples you do, the more of the pure Storm that you're getting, the higher the floors, the more you're getting as well. And you can spend all of that and grind all of that and spend it on pretty much whatever you want. Whether you want to spend it on the ultimatums or on the statistics over here. And that is basically what I wanted to show you in terms of gameplay. The final point that I wanted to make is pros and cons. I have a few things that I really like about this, and there are a few cons as well. One of the big pros of this game, I would say, is the build diversity. The build diversity is great. You can try out so many different types of builds, and you can easily swap between them. There's hardly any opportunity cost, which is just great. And it brings me to my second pro, the ultimate convenience. I already talked about it a little bit, but this is one of those games that just doesn't want to give you a hard time. This is all about having fun. All about creating a build and just going with it. And if you don't like it, oh, that's completely fine. You can easily swap it up to a new build. Completely fine, not a problem at all. I love that about games. And it's one of those games that gets you into the flow, which is the third pro. Like, this is one of those games that you can just keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and there is nothing stopping you. No hard decisions, no tedious gameplay mechanics, nothing. It's just all around convenience, and that is great from time to time. And the final pro is because there are so many multiple progression systems that feel integrated and they're not feeling like they're tacked on or something. There's always something to improve because of all of these small progression systems, which keeps the game fresh and interesting. So if you're done playing your build, there's always something to grind for, which isn't always the case in other games. So I appreciate that a lot, especially from an early access title, which is only in this stage of the development. The main con, as you could have seen in this video, it is the repetitive endgame with the same levels and the same enemies. There just isn't a whole lot of variety in terms of biomes, in terms of enemies, and that might get boring. It doesn't personally affect me that much, even after almost 100 hours, but I can definitely see why people don't enjoy it that much. In upcoming updates, there will be more done about this. There will be more biomes, there will be more enemies, so over time this variety is definitely going to get there, but right now it is lacking. Otherwise, a game I would definitely recommend. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay slice and that you got a good idea of what this game is about. If you're interested in picking this up, there is a link down below. Thanks so much for watching. I love you all and see you soon. Bye bye.